So today's problems actually have an equal sign, so they are equations. They're not expressions. So this time we have to solve for the variable. Okay, so the variable will have a solution. Earbuds out, please. All right, so today we're not going to do any distributing. Okay, we are going to do some combining of like terms and then solving. So it is more than one step on the equation part. We're really going to try and focus on learning how to solve these multiple step equations, one step at a time. So today there will be no distributing, but there will be combining of like terms. So if you look at number 1, I have a negative 7n and a negative 3n. Are both of those terms like? Yes. So I can circle negative 7n and I can circle negative 3n, and I'm going to combine those terms. Now listen very carefully right here, okay? When you go up into high school and do higher level math, we like to have our variable on the left, okay? So I'm going to use a property called commutative property, which means that I can change the position as long as I don't change the order, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine these two terms. Since they're both negatives, am I adding or subtracting here? I'm going to add them. They're going to be a bigger negative, right? So a negative 7 plus a negative 3 is going to give me what? 10. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to write my negative 10n on the left side, and then I'm going to bring my 20 over to the right side. All I did was switch sides. Not yet. Okay, I'm just showing you that most of the time, if you look at this one, has the variable on the right as well, so you're going to do the same switch. But if you look at number 3, the variable's already on the left, so you don't have to do a switch. Okay? So I'm not done with this because n still has a buddy. It's still hooked up to negative 10. So this is multiplication, right? This says negative 10 times n is equal to 20. I want to know what n is all by itself. So in order to undo this multiplication, I need to divide both sides by that number that is in front of the variable. So what am I going to be dividing both sides by? What number is in front of the variable? What number? Look at it again carefully. Negative 10. Make sure you include that negative sign. We don't want to have a negative variable. Okay? Hey, it's my favorite. So when we divide both sides by negative 10, I get an n is equal to, and so I have a positive divided by a negative, right? So if I'm using my triangle, and I have a positive divided by a negative, what's my answer going to be? What is 20 divided by 10? I can also cross out my zeros, right? What is 2 divided by 1? How many 1s go into 2? 2. So my answer we said is negative. So here's a negative 2. Right? Okay. Okay. Any questions on that one? Yes. Another question? On another problem? Well, wait, I haven't moved on yet. Let's make sure we have answers on this one. Any questions on what we did here? Okay. So 20 divided by negative 10. Okay, if I cross out my zeros, it makes it much easier. 2 divided by a negative 1. How many 1s fit in 2? There's my 2. But I need to make sure that I understand that when dividing a positive by a negative, I get a negative answer. So I got a negative 2. Okay? Any other questions on this one? All right, we're going to do number 2. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, huh? It is. All right, let's do number 4. Camila says let's work on number 4. We're going to work on number 4. Okay, a little bit trickier. Okay, again, still no distribution. We're just combining like terms. Okay, so this is going to include an extra step in there. So when x is by itself, it's not really by itself. Who's hiding there? Who's shy? Juan, right? So we're going to add Juan there. There's Juan. So now I have a 1x, a plus 8, and a plus 8x. Do I have any like terms that I can combine? Yeah. Hannah? Right, so they're both positive, plus 1x and plus 8x, okay? Now, what side is my variable, left or right now? What side is my variable, on the left or on the right? On the right. I want it on the left, so I'm going to move some stuff over, okay? Am I combining 8 with anything else? No, I can't, right? Because that's on the other side of that equal sign, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move my 8 over here. It's a positive 8, so I'm going to move it over. Now I have a 1x and an 8x. So what is 1 plus 8? Positive 9. So I'm going to write plus 9x. Okay? Now I'm going to switch this over to this side. What number am I moving over here? Negative 10. Make sure you pay attention to the negative. Okay? So now I'm not done yet. I can't divide yet. Can I divide yet? No, because I have this 8. So I first have to move that 8. Okay? So how do I move my 8 to the other side? Yes. I have to subtract it, right? I have to add the opposite. So the opposite of positive 8 would be a negative 8. So when I subtract on both sides, this gives me a nice clean 9x on this side. Am I adding or subtracting these guys? They're both negative. Column method, remember? They're both on the negative, so I'm going to add them, and they're going to be negative. So I have a negative 18. So to undo this multiplication, what do I need to do? I'm undoing 9 times x. How do I undo it? By dividing. I'm going to divide both sides by what number? 9. This is going to be just x all by itself. And what is negative 18 divided by 9? What is it? Thank you. I have a negative and a positive, remember. So x is going to be equal to negative 2. Is that good, Camilo? Yeah. Okay, this is without doing a distributive property. On Monday, you guys are going to use distributive property and do some of this stuff. All right, so there's going to be a lot more work and a lot more steps. But just because it's more work and more steps doesn't mean you don't know how to do each step all by itself. You're just going to have to start combining your steps. Okay, let's do another one. Choose easy. Yes, there's a back. Let's do number 10. Look at number 10. Okay, so do I have any like terms that I'm going to combine here? What am I combining? Negative 6n and negative 6n. So here's my column method. I've got a negative 6 and a negative 6 at my ends. That's going to give me, it means I'm going to add them, right? I put a 6 in the minus sign, where the minus sign goes. So 6 plus 6 is 12n, okay? It's a negative, right? And I'm going to move it to the other side, because remember, my variables are on the wrong side. So I'm going to switch sides here. So I have 12n is equal to 0. But I'm not finished, because I don't know what n by itself is. So I still have to undo this. How do I undo this? I'm going to divide both sides by what number? 12. So this becomes 1n, or just n. And what is n equal to? What do you get? 0 divided by 12 is going to be what?
0.
It's going to be 0. So n is equal to 0. Easier than you thought, right? So 6 is a lot like the one we just did, except you don't, except 6 is a lot like 4 and 10, just so it has a 0. 5, you're going to be adding 2 negatives, right? So we good, or do you guys want to do one more? Which one more? Jordan? Which one? Look at the back side. There's the backside. So let's check out, see if there's a tricky one on the backside. Let's do 18. Okay. All right, so let's look at 18 super quick. What's in front of those R's? Juan. Remember Juan's hiding? So let's add Juan. Okay, so this is Juan R and this is Juan R. So I'm going to actually add them together and they become what? 2R. But what side is that R?
Left.
I want to move it over, right? Because right now it's on the right and I want it on the left. So we're going to move it over. We're going to say 2R is equal to, and what am I going to be equal to? Negative 14. Okay? Divide both sides by what number? This becomes Juan R, or just R. And what is my answer going to be here? What is it, Justin? Negative 7. Excellent work. Okay? Easier than you thought, right? So just remember, when there's a variable by itself, there's really a 1 in front of it. So if you just add that 1, it's going to help you clarify any confusion. Good? Questions, comments, concerns? If you need a calculator, come on up, grab one.